give your PIN, authenticating yourself. And subsequently what you do is that you just enter a PIN and you are transacting from a mobile. In the mobile, you enter the PIN and then you are authenticated. So what is happening, it's a two-factor authentication which does not need subsequent biometric confirmations. So this kind of system will enable that authentication to take place in a very, very simple manner. And therefore the person will be able to transact. And this is what is happening is that he gives UID fingerprint and then suppose he deposits the money, it happens real time. Once he deposits, the BC's account actually is debited and the customer's account is credited. And this must happen real time online. That's actually our recommendation. Currently the solutions which are there are the solutions which are in silos, which are not interoperable, which are not scalable, and therefore our recommendation is we should use solutions which are real time online. I mean, it's another gap. What is happening, you had standalone systems, then you had internet, and then you have, not connectivity is not everywhere, so you had those systems, and now I think there's no use in investing in those legacy systems. The better thing is to invest in a system which is real time online. That's what we propose, and therefore the whole thing happens, and if you have a we have finalized micro ATM standards, they are on our website. Now these micro ATMs are being tested by NPCI and many of the manufacturers, and they should be available in the market, and we will have this financial inclusion pilot also is being done by us. So essentially what we are saying, it's a very low cost device, does not have much intelligence except that it can communicate with both UID and with the bank's core banking system and is able to do the transactions. If it is a interbank transaction, that also then it should go to NPCI and then do the switching. So this is what we are saying. Currently the solutions that are being developed, deployed, they have a POS device, they have a card, there is an intelligence in the POS device, the business logic in the POS device, the authentication is in the card, and therefore that kind of thing is done, and then they are synchronizing done at the end of the day. Probably nothing is required. It can be just a simple device which essentially authenticates and does the business. Similarly, the withdrawal experience, same, online, real-time update. And probably if the device also has some kind of micro, speaker, it can say, now your balance so much or whatever is possible. Just now I saw some devices which are, which are able to speak about balance itna hai. I feel that the growth which is going to take place is bank branches, ATMs, POS terminals. We have reached here, micro ATMs, and then of course using the mobile, internet, phone banking, anywhere, anytime access. We can really transform this financial inclusion space, and the targets which the finance minister has given to the country, I'm sure they can be met with. Not only they can met with, they can exceed. And what is also very important is, once you have the UID linked bank account, then all the government benefits can be transferred directly to a person by his UID. What do you say? I want to, there's a list of beneficiaries and the government electronically transfers, all right, at the rate of 100 rupees to all these fellows or whatever they automatically there's a table at the back end which basically maps UID account, the bank account number, the mobile number or whatever. Straight away the money can go to that account. It can resolve. It's like a DNS. All of you know technology. The DNS server, it resolves the thing and finally transfers. So what we are saying is we can create a national infrastructure which can make the electronic benefit transfers very easy. And what will happen then is that currently where you have different kinds of accounts, every government program opens a new account. So these accounts are not viable because basically there's no volume in these accounts. But once you have single account for all the government benefit transfers, then these accounts will become viable. And you see, once you are able to have banking services at the doorstep of a person, there's no motivation for the fellow to draw every, pie. Because we have seen, I am also from a village. Even if I earn 20 rupees a day, I always will think, oh, let me save 2 rupees for a rainy day because I may not get employment tomorrow. So even the poor have a very great propensity to save in this country. And if we can harness that saving, because once we have access, banking services access to those people, we can certainly make that possible. And therefore, savings will increase, therefore the convenience will increase, cost will come down, and all this can really transform the entire economy. Cash handling come down. In fact, it should be possible now to have non-assisted model, whereby I want to transfer, I brought grocery from somebody, and I just want to transfer 50 rupees to him. And through my mobile factor authentication, I can say, simply transfer this money to that person. So my mobile becomes the POS device. There's no need. And it's as secure, as transparent, as trackable as any other device. Without compromising security, you are able to achieve these kinds of objectives. Currently, what is the scenario? The scenario is that there is a POS device. Every Narega payment, suppose there is a POS device. Now that POS device has the business logic. That POS device also operates through a card. There is a card. Now this guy has about 6 to 7 cards. I'm not against cards, but what I'm saying is that this fellow, Narega worker, pension, IA, everything is a card. And RSBY card is actually replaced every year. What can happen, and this should happen now, is that all these applications, they don't need to sit in the POS devices. There's nothing which prevents these applications from sitting onto the cloud, from sitting onto the internet. Therefore, what should happen is that at the internet you have all these, entitlements, the how much is in anybody's account, and then this person withdraws or transacts. And same authentication he can do after authenticating, he can transact all of those things. So therefore, all these things can be replaced by a single system where you have linked backend and authentication system. These are the common application infrastructure at the backend, and then you have the online authentication, and you are able to do transaction in any of these things. So this structure must change, and it presumes it actually connectivity. There is no doubt about it, and there are maybe some areas in this country which do not have the connectivity. What we are saying is that for those areas continue to have those kinds of disconnected situations, offline situations, but for those where you have the connectivity, and I think you will have connectivity for the entire country very soon. There are more and more gaps which exist are being plugged in, and once you have, then there is no need to invest in legacy applications. You must transform, you must re-engineer all your applications to take advantage of the Aadhaar-based authentication, take advantage of every sort of business logic and everything being on the cloud, and therefore you will be able to operate. In fact, what we are proposing is there are many applications which are similar across the country. For example, public distribution system, more or less the same business logic applies. So you can probably have a framework application for the PDS. Each state can sort of become a log-on thing. I just log on and I go to my screen and do the thing. So therefore, it is possible to have a common application which resides on the cloud and which is able to transact. This is what I've said. Basically, the information in an offline solution resides in a smart card. That resides in a smart cloud. A business application in the POS, it is on the back end. Device is complex, expensive, it is simple. So now the device which we are, micro ATM which we are experimenting with will going to cost sub 10,000. Probably, if the whole thing expands, it will probably cost 5,000, because ultimately the cost is determined by the volumes and the numbers. And therefore, it is possible to have this kind of thing. And then you will be able to have financial inclusion in real sense. You will be able to achieve the targets. This is my sort of hope, and hope the institutions and the ecosystem which we have created, the MOUs, for example, we have had MOUs with about 8 to 9 banks now, with 32 state governments. We should be able to provide the kind of basic input required, which is the accounts, financial inclusion, first stage of the financial inclusion to open the accounts. That should take place, and we should be able to take it forward. Thank you very much.